Hi everyone, my name is Kara Warner. I am your moderator for this very special conversation about Prime Video's The Better Sister, a very exciting limited series dropping on Prime Video May 29th. I am very pleased to introduce the reason you're tuning in. Please welcome stars Jessica Biel and Elizabeth Banks, who also serve as executive producers, and your co-showrunners and executive producers, Olivia Milch and Regina Corrado. Yay! Yay! Such a good team. I would love to kind of kick it off with this project's origin story. Who found the book first? Was the book the entry point or the scripts for the show? How did we all assemble here today?
Yes, absolutely. Well, Tomorrow Studios, our amazing producers, sent me this book, and Alifair Burke is the best, most incredible writer. Everyone go buy her books, and so twisty and turny, so satisfying. And I think the thing I really connected to, and both Regina and I did, was this idea that siblings get different versions of their parents, and that your birth order and what is happening with your parent as you're a child and how that differs from what your sibling gets. That really felt like a universal story that we could, sink the roots deep into, on top of it being a very satisfying murder mystery. So we felt like, all right, let's go on this. And then, we were able to assemble this incredible team, and it's just been a dream.
Yeah. We love the savagery between sisters. That's a big draw. It's a big draw for us.
Yes, there's like endless material to work with, for sure. For you both, what kind of, did you read the book first, or were you approached with the script first, and kind of what were your first impressions?
I read the script. I read the pilot episode, the first episode. It's not a pilot, I guess. It's called episode 101. I read, which, is really, it's Chloe's, it's the night that Chloe finds Adam. And then Craig Gillespie called and said, you should read the book and then let's talk, because you'll see, there's more. And so I read the book, and so then I knew largely what was going to transpire and who Nikki essentially was to Chloe, the backstory and more of it. And but what I loved about the scripts then, and my conversations with producers, these guys, everybody, was how much more we could do with an adaptation, and how deep we could go into character stuff, how we were going to sell the past of the flashbacks and weave them into the present. I love the idea of playing with time, and which is everyone's enemy, and the big bad. And then also, I'm a big sister. There were tons of connection points for me personally to the story. Again, I also just loved that it was a great murder mystery. And yeah, I don't know, it just felt like we could really work. We were being spoken to at the same time, as a package, let's do it all together. And I kept being well, is she gonna do it? I think it'd be really good. And I'd been told for years that we looked alike, that we could be sisters. Same. So it was I feel like serendipity's finally happened, and it's going to come together, and this is the one it's gonna come together around.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I sort of similarly read the 101 first, and then was dipping into the other episodes that I think I had been given. I wasn't given everything right away, and then was reading the book kind of simultaneously, and hearing about that Elizabeth was going to hopefully maybe be involved. I was trying to figure out how would I do this with my family, going to New York for so long, and my husband was on tour, and I was like, oh my God, how do I figure this out? But it was such compelling material for me. I mean, the sister stuff, I love a murder mystery. That's something that I love being a part of. But the sister stuff was the savagery. I think was the new element, one of the newer elements for me to consider, oh wow, how do we walk, these sisters and start at this one place with them, and then have them make this incredibly massive arc, and become aligned by the end of this thing. And that was probably the other biggest draw.
Yeah. How did you all it's maybe a question for you two and then you two, how did you approach the adaptation? Because obviously you guys are producers involved too, and how you decide to kind of tease out little elements of the story. Obviously you have a source material as guide, but can you talk just about the fun of getting to stretch it out a little bit?
Oh my gosh, of course. I think that when you have something like Alifair's book, you have this incredible foundational text, right? And you can build upon that. Inherently, the structure of a novel, obviously there's interiority, obviously there's sort of a beginning and end, particularly in a murder mystery where there's a driving force, right? You want to know what happens next, and part of the gift of long form storytelling is you get these moments to investigate, to breathe, to get to know characters. And we found that as we initially started looking into that structure, we were being drawn towards these other moments. The more we got to know these characters, the more we understood where they came from, and maybe we want a little glimpse of that. And oh, this is just outside of what's happening, but we really need it to understand why they're behaving this way. And so the more that you kind of get your tent poles and you get the structural integrity that you need from the book, the source material, it evolves. It's a living, breathing thing that grows, and it tells you what it needs. And then you get to start, listening to that together as a family, taking care of it. And that's such fun to collaborate and find that all together.
Also, if you have actors who are so good that the interiority, they do it for you. So you're doing it through images and not words. And there are so many beautiful.
Write less.
Or we don't say that. Yeah.
There's so many beautiful, poignant, from my perspective, in the show that are just these sisters by themselves. And they just speak volumes for us.
Yeah. I'm wondering, you can flip this question vice versa, how I say it. I'm wondering if you could both talk about what you love watching each other do, kind of if it's, what you love Jessica as Chloe doing or Jessica the producer doing, and vice versa, because I think you both have great experience on both sides. I'm just curious kind of what it is to work in that realm, like, the experience.
That's such a nice question.
That is a nice question. It makes me think about when we were on set and something would be happening, like lighting-wise or script-wise, and I'd be like, why is that happening? You'd be like, all right, here's the situation. We're doing this because this needs to happen. Like, when her director hat pops on, like, she just knows so much about, and I thought I knew a lot, but I would be like, what? And she's, don't worry about it. This is what we're doing. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. So I loved watching Elizabeth do that off camera. And then your spontaneity and your unpredictability. Like that, I was on set with her always, I'm like, what is she gonna do? And I want to cultivate that in myself. Like that's something I'd like to work on, and I don't know if you can actually work on that or if that's just like who you are as a person or not, but like that kind of your ability to improvise, your ability to find the humor and be and just know some shit to say that you're gonna be like, damn, I didn't expect that. I love that kind of ability, and so for me, those are the things that came up.
But you don't realize that I got to lean into that because that was Nikki's whole goal with Chloe is to like throw her off balance, right? Like it is to jab her in the side. It is the like, you're not better than me. Like I know who you are. Like everything you're saying is bullshit, nonsense. Like I have moral superiority the entire time. She stole my husband and my son. Like, I have forgiven, but I mean, I haven't forgotten. Like, we can keep going. So part of like, thank you for saying that. But I do think a lot of it was that it's what I was playing. It is the character. It is their dynamic. So I was really leaning into the dynamic of like, how can I fuck with you?
But that's like a real skill. Like I don't think I'm personally like a really good fucker with somebody.
You didn't have to play it though. You know what I mean?
I know, but so I enjoyed watching you do that, and then in my mind, I'm like, I want to do that too. I want to be better at that. Maybe in just my own life.
There's some really good one-liners. You both, Chloe and Nikki, get to deliver like very perfect sisterly. Like
yes, like we were written a lot of very good material.
We certainly were.
What is it like for you, kind of working with actors who also know what they're doing as producers? Because they're not just vanity producers. I even know that.
It's the best.
Yeah.
I highly recommend it. No, it was such a gift. First of all, to have people who are so experienced and so self-sufficient, right? It was like, these are pros. We were working together. They needed what they needed from us, but they were taking care of everything else. Like they viewed the project holistically. They came to us doing this incredible work and then also making sure that everything else was, handled. And it was such a joy to feel like, oh, we have partners. This wasn't something, oh, we have to tend to. It was, but that's for real. Yes, it was, it was like, oh, we're all in this. We're all equals. We're all partners. And that, it was just the best. I mean, it really was
I
special.
think that when you work with intelligent people who care, who are very good at their jobs, you don't want to disappoint anyone. I never wanted to go to set and disappoint Jessica. I never wanted to disappoint Olivia. I didn't want, you just go to set and you're like, I have to bring it today. Today's the day. I get today to do this scene, and this is it, and it lives forever, so let's show up for it. And anything less than is a disappointment to these. Like, you set a bar. Everyone set a bar, and we had to meet it or exceed it every single day. And I love environments like that, where there's just mutual respect all the way around, and nobody wants to be the mess up,
Yeah.
Nobody's wasting time.
No.
You're not
Well,
having
that's
to have
the
these
moms
endless
and us.
conversations.
Yes, moms, like, let's go.
The moms and us are just like, we don't have time for any of this. We just gotta get through it. Let's go
I feel
now.
like, I don't know if this is true, but I read that the days were kept, like, we
Yes.
were always making days, we're always mindful.
We
of
want
that.
people to go home and have dinner with their family.
That's exactly right. And we had amazing directors in that sense too, and the entire
The
crew.
ADs.
Yeah, the ADs were unbelievable. So, but I think that really does. We were doing such great work, and we also knew that we would continue to do great work if our cast and our crew got to be with their families and got to get rest, and that was really important to us. You can make great art and you can make great TV shows without destroying people's personal lives, and that may be a revolutionary thing to say, but
And we were doing 9 pages a day.
Yeah.
yeah.
I remember.
It requires an
wow, we
incredible
are
amount
doing
of
some pages.
preparation.
Yes.
So the
Ready
whole
to go.
crew gets credit for
Absolutely.
getting us out
Everybody.
Yeah.
to have a nice dinner in New York City.
Hat tip to the ADs for sure. Yes.
Yes. Well, I was also going to talk about you. It seems like you have a lot of fun playing together, but also you have a extended kind of supporting cast that's seems very fun
Yeah,
to
the
come in.
best.
And, like, really, can you talk or tease a little bit about the other people that come and dance with you in the show? Kind of.
Yeah.
It's a who's who of New York phenomenal actors.
Yeah.
I remember making sort of like a short list of like guys that I really like that I knew lived in New York, because that's who we were casting for. And Corey was on it, and Fred was on it, and Paul Sparks was on it, and it was, we got the most incredible people to come. And then Kim Dickens is like a total revelation. I mean, I feel like you have written for her, and they knew exactly what they were going to. To be able to write for someone who is going to deliver all that, I'm sure is really a gift. And they were great. And then they had a great dynamic. They were really fun to see together.
Lorraine. She's
Lorraine,
just her voice.
and
alone.
Gloria Rubin.
And Gloria.
Gloria Rubin shows up. You're like, oh, she's everything, So great.
How about New York as a character? Like getting to shoot in New York and play with, New York should be a character.
It's the best.
I mean, my
It's
first
fun.
night there was the balcony scene when Nikki has just shown up, and we shot on the balcony on Central Park West, overlooking the park and the entire skyline.
yeah, that's right.
So I walked in like day one of the show, and I was there, and nothing puts a character in their place more than being like, oh, look, this is the bigness of the city, the beauty of this view, this apartment, like everything about it. With Nikki would have been like, I don't even understand what world I just dropped into. So to have the actual place, it was so fun and really served so much for me, of like, wow, this is just her everyday view. She doesn't even care, It's like, it was super fun to play with it.
Yeah.
I mean, the city is a dream, right? Like, what we're like living out, like my Sex in the City dream.
Oh no, you got to go to Odeon, and we were like, they're gonna shoot at Odeon.
And I was like staying right around the corner.
Yeah.
I walked to work that
Yeah.
day. I was like, this is unbelievable.
Yeah, it
My
was
kids
really
were there. They were getting to experience the city. It was special. It was
That's
really
great.
special.
Well, it's also fun to hear that you're using real locations, because I'm such an easy audience person where I'm like, well, that could be a set, and I don't know. They could have faked it. So it's
No,
great to hear
we
that.
were so lucky in that way. That again, the location scouts, the ADs, the directors, and how they're able to build it, because there's a texture, right, to the city, and there's a texture both to the buildings, to the architecture, and to the people. And that was really important to us when we were casting people from New York, and also just the faces, our lead ensemble, and also our background, and wanting to make sure it felt like the city, and felt real. And that was so important in the diversity of our cast and just the interesting faces, because you walk down New York City street and you're like, who put him in a movie? Who is this guy? And everybody has a story, and that was I think we really got to feel that as you get into the stories of each of our casts, like the richness of the inner lives of every person.
Yeah. Well, and I think another layer of that too is costume and wardrobe and hair and makeup. Can you talk just a little bit about embodying the characters that way with, I feel like Chloe's wardrobe is pretty top. I don't know what Nikki is, but I also appreciated her colorful ensemble. But I'm just wondering how that is for you both, and in creating those also as part of your work.
Stacey Batat, our costume designer, I just love, she and I talked sort of briefly at the beginning about, again, just what would be opposition to her, this sense that there's a creativity in Nikki. There's sort of like a free flow. She's single. She's just a freer spirit, I suppose. But at the end of the day, she came here with a suitcase. So what's in the suitcase?
Yeah.
What did she think she needed? Yeah. So it's not exactly, it's all probably actually a little nicer than what she wears in her real life, right? Like she probably just wears like black jeans every day and like boots and whatever. But like it was like, okay, but you're gonna go to New York and you're gonna go to this, you're gonna go see your son and you're gonna see your sister. So don't like what's in the suitcase. And it really mattered to me, like what was, and then what am I gonna borrow from her? Right. So what, now we have to get into the wardrobe because we're here a lot longer, and like what does that look like? So for me it was really fun to just think about what could be in the suitcase, why would it have been packed, and that it's not actually exactly really Nikki. It's a facade, and the whole show is about putting on facades.
Yeah. The borrowing clothes too was so important, and I want to hear what Jessica has to say about all of her incredible clothes that I wanted to steal so badly. But that was the borrowing clothes. There's a T-shirt that Chloe wears in a flashback that then Nikki pulls out of a wardrobe when she sleeps in the guest house, and the silk robe that Chloe has on, and then Nikki wears it. That is so real and important, that sisters take each other's clothes, and also that it's not endless. There are the things that make up our daily lives, and wanting to see how that they live together. That was so important to us, and Stacey did such a great job with that.
Think about Stacey, she has a very strong vision. So we could say, no, we think it's this, but she'd say, no, it's, I don't think so. But you know what, okay, I'll show you what we have. I'm like, well, that's not what she's just her, I love that. That's important to the mix of things.
Yeah. I don't often notice wardrobe as much as I should, but even I feel like top to bottom, from every character on screen. Like even the men are, like the characters, the way they're dressed, it all makes
an
a lot of
amazing
sense.
job.
There's a certain elegance, and it harkens back a little bit. We mentioned like film noir. Like there's a little bit of this, there's something that Stacey tapped into. It was really even with Nikki when it was messy, there was a certain sort of elegance to it. I loved.
Yeah. Can you tease a little bit? Again, obviously we're avoiding spoilers because we need people to watch it. Can you kind of tease what you love most about how the episodes unfold, or kind of the story that you're getting to tell, whether you're appealing to certain audiences or what kind of ride we're all in for as we watch all these?
Every episode has a cliffhanger that's bananas. I mean, truly. Yeah. You guys, in this genre and in the era of the binge, you gotta have that hook that makes people go, I gotta watch the next one, even though it's 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm gonna do it, right? So, and it's just expertly done, I think, in how we're driving down one lane and we think we're going in one direction, and right at the end we make a right turn, and it just keeps you hooked and watching. I thought I've loved how it unfolds and really keeps the viewer like on edge, and you think people, and then something else gets revealed, and it's really interesting.
Yeah, and I think the other one of the other elements is just that everybody is a suspect.
Yes.
Everybody. And you really don't know what's going to happen. You really don't know, who it's going to actually be in the end. And everyone is kind of culpable on some level, right? Many of the characters kind of all play a part in how everything kind of goes down. It's almost like these sliding doors moment, where if you had just made a different decision, something different would have happened, but they didn't. And I like how that unfolds, and of course just how the sister relationship evolves and how it turns into just something so different and so empowering and powerful, and like kind of
volatile,
volatile, but like like these two women are just so aligned at the end, and it just starts off so differently. So I love that. I love watching that.
When Lorraine in 101 says, I'm happy he's dead or whatever in the car, and she means it. And I was like, oh my God, did she do it? Like, everyone is a suspect. It's really fun.
Yeah, it is. And you talked a little bit about like the subtlety in the cliffhanger, because sometimes we know like you have to pay attention to every episode, but sometimes I would have maybe glanced down at something and I would be like, wait a second. And I have to kind of go back and be like, I got to catch that specific line or hint again, which I think is very well crafted on your part. For you both, like, was there anything, like a specific goal in what you're putting out in each episode, or kind of how you want to manipulate in a creative way? I don't know if that's an agenda item or not.
I think we definitely do step back and say, well, are we achieving everything we need to in these episodes? Is there a balance of the humanity, the sense of humor, and the mystery? Because I think that if I'm coming to this show, I'm watching it for the sisters, and I'm watching it for the family, and I want to know what, because those are the things that I enjoy. But then you wrap all the mystery around and all of the other characters, and it gets very tangled and juicy. So I think we were always very dedicated to sort of stepping back and saying, are we doing all of these things at simultaneously?
Absolutely, and it's a puzzle that you're building and then taking apart and having an audience build with you again. And so there's multiple moments of revelation and steps of revelation. And I think for us, the present linear narrative, what we call the PLN, wanting to make sure as we're revealing the mystery of the present, it couldn't be nerdier.
But do you see why I couldn't show up not knowing my lines? Do you know what I mean?
I haven't mentioned
know it inside
Faulkner
out,
yet,
like,
which was
do
many
not.
times yesterday, immediately glossed over eyes. They're like, oh, really? He was involved in this? No. But I think that was like that present and the past, and that in the structure of the episodes, you see that we want to give little information and parts of the past at the same time that we're revealing something of the present. So there'd be a cliffhanger always at the end, but also in the episode, you'd be like, wait, what happened so when they were kids this happened, and then they met at this point, and so you're really wanting to allow the joy of discovery as you're piecing together both the past and the present, because that's also the experience that the characters are having. So you really want that mirroring to happen, and that was a really fun structural component, and then to get to execute it and see it all play out was very satisfying.
It's fun to hear you talk about it in that way too, because again, in knowing the PLN now,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's something you would say today where you are in the PLN versus the other, but the way you kind of little carrots or little treats along the way of, I think in the first three of the hint to why the sisters' doors were locked, right? Like that's just a throwaway thing, and you're like, I bet we're gonna revisit that. Like just those little things. It's so well done in that sense. As we kind of come close to wrapping up our time, to not take up more, is any final words, any words of wisdom for the audience?
Have fun.
Don't spoil it for your friends.
Yeah.
Okay? You don't
Don't be that guy.
Yeah, that's my main thing. It's like, tell everybody to watch it, but don't spoil it.
Yeah. I would say I went back to the pilot after I saw finale, just to be like, oh, what hints were here?
By the way,
That's always fun to
there's
do
some
that.
very obvious things.
But it's really fun.
It also, yes, here's what I would say to the audience. Watch it and then watch it again, and so you can appreciate what these performers are doing, because it is so complicated, it is so layered, and they are holding so much in any given moment. And to understand what actually happened, and then to go back and watch that kind of art be done, that kind of performance, it's incredible. So that would be my recommendation.
And
Walk
don't
away.
read the book.
Yeah, until after.
The show, and then go buy 100 copies of the book for Christmas presents for everyone, or Hanukkah presents, or whatever.
Yes.
Plus, if you have any notes, write Olivia.
We would love to hear it. We would love to hear it.
She will write you back, guaranteed.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All episodes available May 29th, if you don't already know that, tuning in. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So wonderful.